this computer. Hello, everybody, and thank you for coming to the Global Undergraduate Exchange Program application overview step-by-step, held by our dear guest, Kayla Whitney, who is Academic Exchange Coordinator from the American Embassy in Bosnia and Herzegovina. My name is Alexandra Popovic, and I work in Sarajevo-based Education USA Center. There are other centers around the country, in Mostar, Banja Luka, and Tuzla, and many more around the world. And we actually work closely with the American Embassy and American universities to get you from here to the United States for your further education. This Global Undergraduate Exchange Program, or for shortened Ugrad, is a very special program and very dear to me personally. So I'm very glad and very happy Kayla took some time to prepare this wonderful step-by-step overview of the application process for us that I really hope will help you in deciding to apply, number one, and actually answer all of your questions that you had about the application itself as well. Kayla, thank you again. And please.
All right. Thank you everyone for coming today. I know, like Alexandra said, this is one of our most exciting programs for undergraduate students who wish to study in the United States for a semester. So I'll talk a little bit about the program. I work on all of our exchange programs at the US Embassy, and I've been working with students going from the US to abroad and students from other countries going to the United States for a long time. So it's fun to encourage you to apply to a new program today. Since not all of you have started applications yet, I'll start with the why should you apply and why should you want to study abroad. There are so many great reasons to go abroad, not just to the United States, but to study anywhere, to meet new people, to learn a new language, to network, to get professional skills you might not get in other places. And specifically in the US, some of the most exciting reasons to go to the United States is because we have very high quality universities that offer coursework from all kinds of range of topics that you can all get at one institution. Everything from, I like to talk about a literature class about Harry Potter to really high quality science, engineering, technology courses, medical fields, all of that. It's all taught at the same institution. And we really are proud of the range of opportunities available at our US universities. US universities also have a really unique focus, I think, on networking and career development that institutions in other countries don't always have. So if you study in the United States, you'll not only get to work on your academics, but you will probably get opportunities for internships or volunteer experience, things like that, that are also really useful for your career goals. And on the fun side, US college campuses are a really exciting place to be. They're big and they are really diverse with students, not just from the US, but from all over the world. You'll be, if you go in Global Ugrad, a part of a group of Global Ugrad students coming from 60 different countries, going to different places in the United States. So you'll get to meet people from other countries as well as Americans, and really take advantage of all of the fun things that a US college campus has, like clubs and social activities and things like that. And then perhaps most importantly, for all of our study abroad programs, you have the opportunity to help create links and to help create mutual understanding between people here in your home country, your home community, and people in the United States, which is a good thing for all of us. So I hope that you think a little bit more about those things and are interested in applying to the Global Ugrad program. So if you don't know exactly what the program is, it is one semester of study at the undergraduate level in the United States. It's not in a specific state or university. It depends on what you are studying as to where you would go. That happens after you get selected. So you don't get to choose that part during the application process, but trust that you will be matched to a good university that you can study your field at. Those who are selected on the program, it is fully paid for. So there isn't much that you have to pay out of pocket at all. Your scholarship would include your travel to the United States and then back at the end of the program. It covers any costs at the home university, tuition, it covers your housing. It includes at most universities a meal plan for your meals. You get a starting allowance for books. You get a small amount every month to help cover living costs wherever you are. So there isn't really much you have to pay for out of pocket at all, except for fun things that you might want to do in the United States. And applications for the 2022-2023 program are open right now until January 6th. So you have one more month to work on it, which is plenty of time. So that is why we're going to go over the application a little bit more today and answer any questions you have about it. So a few important things to note first is eligibility. So you do have to be a citizen of Bosnia and Herzegovina enrolled in an undergraduate program here in country. I hope everyone is already meeting that first requirement. Unfortunately, if you're studying outside of Bosnia, you would not be eligible for this program. At the time of applying, you should be in at least your first semester of your undergraduate program. If you're still in high school, you won't be eligible yet. You need to have one semester finished by the time you go on the program. If this semester is your first semester, you are eligible because by the time the application selection is finished, you will be done with this semester. The other thing is you have to have one semester left at least when you come back from the program. You can't do your last semester of your undergraduate degree while in the United States. You have to have something to do to come back and graduate in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So those are the technical eligibility things. Then the last and very important piece is that you must be committed to your community and committed to becoming a leader in your community. That is one of the main goals of the Global Ugrad program. So I hope that is true for everyone here as well. So we'll go through the application in a bit more detail, but the basics are the online application form. We need copies of your transcripts. We need 2 recommendations, and there are 2 essays that are in the application. We'll get through that in just a minute. So, like I just said, there is the application. These are the 3 steps to getting selected for the Global Ugrad program. The first is that application, the written application and essays. Included with that is your recommendation letters. And then the final piece of selection is an interview with myself and my colleagues from the US Embassy. So everybody who applies to the program will have to do that part if they wish to participate. Okay, so before we talk in detail about the application, I want to go over these program goals. A lot of the time when I talk to students about Global Ugrad or any of our programs, what I hear a lot is, I just really want to go to the United States. That is great. We are glad that you're motivated to do that, but the important thing is to think about why and what the program you're applying to is looking for and trying to accomplish. If your whole application is just, I really want to go to the US, that's not showing us very much about you as a person and why we should send you there and support you and give you that opportunity. So the goals of the Ugrad program are to provide an exchange experience to drive academic and cross-cultural and leadership competencies. So I've highlighted some of those most important words there. It's to enhance students' academic knowledge and professional skills for long-term academic and career goals. So it's both academic and professional. It is to cultivate students' comprehensive and nuanced understanding of the United States. So what is it about the United States that you're interested in learning about? It is to facilitate opportunities to establish social networks with US host institution and your local community in the United States. and to empower students to engage constructively in the civic life of their local and global community. That's a big one, but that means we want you to be involved in your local community. We want you to help your communities. We want you to have a desire to make change and to be a leader. So these are the things and qualities that we're looking for when we're looking at global Ugrad applications. Okay, so the first part, give me just a second here. Alexandra, tell me if you can't see what I'm doing, but I think I shared everything properly.
Yeah, I can see. I'm fine.
Okay,
it's great.
Great, thank you. So this is the actual global Ugrad application. This is me pretending to be a student to apply to the program. So this is exactly what it looks like when you go onto the website and create an account. You will see this application form. The first thing is a quick eligibility check. So these are very straightforward yes and no answers. Are you a citizen of the United States? If so, you can't go on the program. Are you old enough? The other things I went over about having a semester left when you return, if you speak English, so very basic things. Once you do that, then we get into the actual application form. The first part is, again, pretty basic about you section. Very quick to fill out this part. I think this is the easiest for everybody. Contact information, very basic things. We then get to your academic information. So this is, again, straightforward. We want to know what you're studying, where you're studying, your GPA, and when you are supposed to be graduating. I want to note that GPA is a part of the application, but your GPA and your academic grades alone are not the only thing we're looking for with this application. So it's great if you have good grades, we want to see that. But the application has a lot more to it because we're looking for more than just your success at schoolwork. So get through all of this. We want to know a little more about what kinds of courses you want to take in the United States. We want to see that you can actually do your studies in the United States. I will note again, all fields of study are eligible for global Ugrad. The only thing that can be a little bit tricky is medical fields because we do medical school very differently in the US than in most other places in the world. So if you are doing medical, the pre-medical programs in the United States at the graduate level are more foundation courses like biology and chemistry, and they're not the kind of higher level like lab work and things like that that you might be doing here. So if you are studying a medical field, I suggest reaching out to me so we can talk about what kind of coursework you might need to do and if this would work. And then not just your field, but we hope to see here outside of your field, what subjects are you interested in otherwise? Like I mentioned, in the United States, you'll get the chance to take classes across a huge range of things. It doesn't have to be just your field of study. So do you want to take a literature course or a music course or something totally random otherwise? What is it? And tell us about it in here. We would like to know. We also need to know, just in case you get to the selection phase, who your advisor or contact at your home university is. So that's the next part. And then we want to see that you speak English. I will say for the application part of the Global Ugrad program, there are no English tests required for applying. If you are selected, you will be asked to take the Toefl exam, but we will provide you a way to do that at no cost to you if you are one of our finalist candidates. So right now for applying, it is not needed. If you've done the Toefl before and have a score, you can put it there, but it's not mandatory. Okay. Then I think this is the part where we start to get to that is more confusing for everybody, because this is asking about your hobbies and your interests, and it's a little bit more personal than just the academic and contact information. But we want to know who you are as a person, not just who you are at school. please tell us, what do you do outside of the classroom? What might you do in the United States that is not just school to make sure you're involved in getting to know American culture? So if you play a sport, do you want to do that in the United States? Or if you, again, like an instrument, if you play an instrument or like music, is there some way you would be interested in getting involved with those same interests from home, back from home when you are in the US? So this is what we want to know about in this part. And then I've said it over and over already, but one of the huge parts of the Global Ugrad program is a desire for you to be a leader and to be committed to helping your community. So a part of the application is this commitment to community. How are you involved in your community? This does not need to be an essay. This is short. Notice it says, please list any community service activities. So we don't need a whole page explaining what you do. A couple of sentences or bullet points or anything like that is just fine to tell us what kinds of things you are involved in. I'm going to switch back to my
Kayla, just a question. What would qualify as a community service in our case here in Bosnia?
Yeah, I mean, it can be all kinds of things. If you've, I know I've seen students list like helping to organize like a donation drive in their home community for winter coats or something. That would be community service. Or if you've helped fundraise for any kind of activity or for some group of people who needed it where you live, that is community service. It can be all kinds of things. I don't know if that helps.
For example, floods, after flood cleanup or something like that. We had floods in Bosnia lately.
Yes, no, absolutely. After flood cleanup or trash cleanup somewhere that needed it, or I mean, it could even be something as simple as if you have elderly neighbors who can't do their own yard work and you helped them with that, that's community service. So it can really be any way that you are helping other people. It can also be something very official, like I am part of an organization who does this, but it also can be very simple things like I help my neighbor or I pick up trash in my community. Those are all community service activities. Okay, so that is that part. The next part is the essays. So I think this is the part that confuses people maybe the most, is how to write their essays. As you saw, the rest of the application is not that long. Shouldn't take you very long to get through it, an hour top maybe. But the essays are something you want to spend a little bit more time on and maybe even get feedback from people as you're working on them. So there are 2 essays required for the application. The first one is fixed. It is this question right here. The Global Ugrad program is for young leaders committed to serving their home communities. So why would you be a great participant in the Global Ugrad program? So we want to know why. And this is not a super long essay. It's, let's see, minimum of 450 words. That's not even a full page of typing. So it's just a couple of paragraphs. But what is it about you that makes you a good participant for the program? We can talk about this a little bit more in just a second. The next one, you get to choose between 2 different questions. You don't have to answer both of these. You choose one. So whichever one you want to answer, that's the one you write about. The first one is a quote about leadership. It says, leaders are made rather than born. And then it asks, what does it mean to you to be a leader? Tell us about a leader you admire and how your leadership style resembles or differs from that person. And the other option is also about leadership. And it is, how would you describe your personal leadership style? What values do you consider the most important when leading others? How do you inspire and influence others to get behind your vision? So you can choose one of these 2 things. You don't have to write about both of them. So you can tell these are both they're more personal in what they're asking. This is not to list your accomplishments and to say, I have good grades in these courses and I've done these jobs and I've received these awards. This is about you and what you do for your community, what qualities you have in yourself that you think are good. And so some reminders and things to think about when you're starting to think about writing your essay. So the first thing is we want specific examples. The best kind of essay is something that uses kind of like a story or like a memory that you have that you're sharing about a specific real thing that happened, showing us that you are helpful, that you care about your community, that you saw a problem and you tried to solve it, that you got a group of students together to work together, something along those lines. I think students sometimes get a little bit caught up in what being a leader means. It's, yes, if you are a president of an organization, you are a leader, or a club or something like that. You are a leader. But like I said, when we were talking about community service, there are other ways that you can have shown leadership, even if you are not necessarily in an official title of leader somewhere. So it could be that you at school saw something that needed to be fixed and got people together and asked for a change to be made or something like that. So try to think, I guess, outside of the box about what leadership is. The other thing to think about when we're talking about the essays is that you're applying to go and live and take classes in a new country, which requires that you adjust and you have to be flexible and you have to be kind of open-minded if you're going to be successful with a new language, with new types of people, with a different style of teaching and academic system. So if there are ways you can show us that you have been flexible or that you have had an opportunity to interact with people who are different from you and learn from them, that's another good thing to think about putting into your essay. So I have a couple of specific examples here from a student from a year or two ago. Sorry, hold on. These are not, I can't use full essays because there's too many personal things in them. But these are some pieces from essays that we've had students last year write. I don't think I can just leave these sitting on the screen, or if you want to kind of take a screenshot of it or something like that to read through these. The key thing you'll see is that they're very personal. Talking about strengths and flaws in the first one. How do you interact with others? And the second one is a good example of explaining how you participate in your community. Saying what your community service is, or projects that you've worked on, or things in your community you see that you would like to fix, or just saying how working with your community is important to you. These are good examples of that. So I'll leave it up there on the screen. And I just noticed, sorry, I got distracted because I see we have some chat questions, but I think can get to those at the end. So I'll come back to that, I promise. Okay. So after the essays, the next part is the recommendation. So there are 2 recommendation forms required for the application. It is an actual form. Let me show you here. So this is the form that you have to have filled out. You give this to the person who is doing it, and they will fill it out and give it back to you so you can include it with the application. The first one needs to be from a professor. It needs to be about your ability to succeed academically. We want to see that you're going to go to the United States and not fail your courses, that you have already developed skills to succeed in that way. So that's why the first one has to be from a professor. The next one is meant to be more personal or professional. So it should be from someone who knows you, not just from the classroom, but somebody who knows you from other extracurricular activities, whether it's a job or a sport or an organization you've helped volunteer with or anything like that. That is who the second one should come from. The recommendations should be in English. If there's somebody you would really like to write your recommendation that can't write it in English, please talk to me and we can see if we can arrange a translation for that, but they should be in English if it's possible. And you'll see here, these are the questions that the recommender will be asked to fill out. So your recommender already has those instructions in front of them. They should see on the form what they need to do, and hopefully it's not too hard to finish that. I know this part can be a little bit intimidating to approach a professor, to approach somebody to ask about writing this for you. So I'd say start thinking about this right now, even if you haven't started an application yet. Maybe start talking to some of the people you know, some of your professors, and say you're thinking about applying to an exchange program, and see if they're willing to help you with this part of the process. So the last piece is the Global Ugrad interview. So everybody who applies on time and is eligible for the program and has a good quality application will be asked to do an interview with a few colleagues from the embassy. The interviews will be done either on the phone or virtually. With COVID, we aren't doing anything in person still, unfortunately. And it's not a very long interview, 20 to 30 minutes maximum. I can't share, I actually don't have the interview questions because they're sent to us from the program managers in DC. But the interview is kind of asking to show the same thing as the application. So we want to see the leadership qualities, that you have interest in the United States. We want to see that you are motivated, excited about both the academic and the other parts of the program. So those are the same kinds of things we're looking for in the interview that we are in the application. I know an interview can be, I don't know, a little bit intimidating, but it's with me. I don't think I sound very intimidating today on our presentation, and some of my colleagues, and we really are just trying to get to know you. So think of it that way, like you're meeting us for coffee to talk about the program, and you want to present yourself in the whole picture, not just school, but school and your hobbies and what you do for your community and why you're interested in the United States. And that is the end of the whole application process. So that will happen. The application is due in January 6th. This will happen probably in February, and the final selections then will happen in March. So after the interview, we notify everybody of their selection status. It's important to know that the top candidates that we select are sent to Washington, DC at our program office for another final review. And the program office does make the final decision, and we'll learn about that in late March or April of next year. So that is a good overview of the process, but I would really like to take some questions. And I know we already got some in the chat, and Alexandra has a question already. Yes.
I don't have a question. Can I just kindly ask you to go back to the essay questions?
Yes, absolutely. This part? Or the actual questions?
The actual questions. Okay, thank you. So I'm here as a word of an advisor, education as advisor who's been doing this job for 12 years. And I just want to make an additional comments about these questions and the things that you should kind of consider when you are actually writing these essays. So the first question is for young leaders committed to serving their home communities. Be aware that this program is not, as Kayla already mentioned, for people who just want to go to the United States. It's for people who want to go back to the United States to learn something and then come back and apply that knowledge in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So how would you do that? That is actually connect that with why would you be a great participant in the program. So what do you want to learn? What do you want to see there? What do you want to experience there? What knowledge or know-hows to pick up to be able to come back here to Bosnia because you're coming back, and how to apply that knowledge to make your community and make sure that your community doesn't have to be your whole country. It can, I mean, if it is, it's great, but it doesn't have to be. You don't have to think about your entire Bosnia. You don't have to even think about the entity in which you're living. You don't have to even be thinking about your hometown, especially if it's a big like Sarajevo, Banja Luka, or Mostar. You can be thinking about your university. You can be thinking about smaller scale home community. So think about what you want to do there, what you want to achieve, what you want to learn. Come back and share that with other people, how to do that and why, in accepting you in the program would be a good idea, because you have these ideas, to kind of develop and to apply when you come back home. Do you agree with me, Kayla, on this?
Yes, that's exactly what we want to see.
Yeah. Some people have more ideas, some people don't have any ideas. If you don't have any ideas, think about them before that, try to kind of see what makes you tick, what's your passion, what do you want to do in your life? This is a great time. You're still young, but this is a great time to actually think about future, think about long-term plans, think about, yourself and your place in the world, in your hometown, in your home community. So, and again, think about community not only as the entire Bosnia. It's too big, well, if you want to be a politician in the future, maybe you can, think about entire Bosnia, but you can think about small scale. So that's one thing that people kind of get worried about, because they think about, oh my God, what can I do for entire country? Well, probably nothing, but if you can do something, even better. If you can't, think lower scale. Essay number 2 or number 3. My main point about these 2 essays is that leaders are not managers. So people get afraid of these questions because they think leader equals manager. Not true. Absolutely not true. And I'm telling you, as somebody who is a leader, who is a manager, and who had a training on leadership and management a few years back. So those are not the interchangeable terms at all. How do you lead? How do you lead people in your own vicinity? Your friends, your family, your colleagues at your faculty. How do you lead them? How do you inspire them? How do you think about your passion that you have? Think about something that you love doing, and think about how you are organized, as Kayla mentioned, a clothes drive, for refugees or something, because you believe that you want to help them and so on. How do you lead by your own example? How do you inspire people around you to kind of start doing the things that you're doing? So it's not about you do this, you do that, and I'm gonna, put X or, thick mark, whether you did it or not. That's not a leader, that's a manager who does those things, tracks things and, saying yes or no, blah, 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 blah. You can talk about if you had a situation in your own family, something where you kind of became somebody who knows things, wants things, who inspires your parents, your relatives. Think about in those terms. Again, be aware that manager is not the same as leader. We are talking about leadership here. We're not talking about managerial skills. Managerial skills you learn. And whether you're born or made a leader, that's what's for you to decide in essay number 2. So think about that. Those are the things I just wanted to say. Kayla, thank you.
Yes, those are all really excellent additional points to what I was explaining about. You don't have to be a president of something or the boss at a job to be a leader. You can be nobody and be a leader if you care about your community. So remember that when you're writing your essays. I have seen some questions pop up. Alex, is there anything else you wanted to say, or should we?
No, this is the main point main questions that I receive from students, that they're not really, they don't understand actually what you mean by these questions, and this is where I wanted to jump in mostly.
Okay, great. Well, here, I'll put up the piece with the examples if anybody wants to read through them. But also, if anyone has a question, you are more than welcome now to either put it in the chat or unmute yourself and ask. There aren't that many of us here, so I think that should work okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, hello.
Hello, my name is Dean. Thank you for this lecture. I have a couple questions regarding a letter of recommendations. So I had a professor. I'm currently on the 2nd year of law. On my 1st year of law, my professor lectured me about some Roman law, and I asked him for a recommendation letter. He wrote me one. But it isn't in the form that you showed us a few minutes ago. Is it a problem that it wouldn't be in that form? And is it a problem that he would be my personal letter of recommendation because he's not my professor anymore? Because in the letter of recommendation, it says about extracurriculars that I attended a few months ago.
So because the recommendation letters are being reviewed centrally, they all, like by the program office in Washington, D.C., they all should be using that form. What I would suggest doing in that situation is, I'm assuming you still have the email or contact information for that professor. I would email the letter he wrote you previously, as well as the form, and say, could you put some of this information into this form and send it back to me for the specific program that I am applying to? Most faculty members are usually okay with, I mean, he's already written it, so it's not a lot of work for him to do a little more work and just put that into the current format for the application.
Thank you. And what about, could it be a personal letter, or because he's not my professor anymore?
Since he was your professor previously, correct?
Yes.
Then that counts as your academic letter. It does not necessarily have to be someone who is your professor right now.
Yeah.
If they were your professor and they know you from class, then that counts as a academic recommendation letter, even if you aren't in their class anymore.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Can I just add a few things about, I don't know, Kayla, how does embassy or your DC office thinks about assistants recommendations, not professors, but assistant professors or something like that?
I think for this, it would be okay if they are if you had a big lecture class that the professor wouldn't really know you, but you had a separate class with a teaching assistant. If that teaching assistant writes you a letter, it's still someone who knows you in an academic way. So that is okay. Yes.
Okay. The reason I'm asking this is because, again, drawing from my knowledge and experience, professors at the universities, at many universities in Bosnia, are quite busy, right? And they don't have time, or sometimes they don't have much will to write recommendation letters. And in that case, I think it will be much better for you to actually contact your assistants if they know you well, if you've been having practice classes with them or something. I know, for example, I studied English language and literature at the University of Tuzla for a while, and I had more contacts with my assistants than with my professors, because my assistants were, with me for, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours per week, and my professor was with me for 1 hour a month. So it's better for you to ask somebody who wants to write you a letter of recommendation and who wants to say good things about you and really thinks good things about you, than, I don't know, a dean of university. If the dean doesn't know you well, if dean is not eager and it doesn't have time to write, really sit down and write something good for you. So think about who you want to approach, think carefully, and then choose the person, professors or assistants, with a view that will influence your application at the end. Yeah.
Yes, that is a very good suggestion.
We do have 2 questions. Do you want me to read it to you, Kayla?
Yeah, I see them actually. So
Okay.
we have a question about, 2 questions about eligibility. So one is asking about finishing high school in a different country. If you finished high school in a different country, but you are a Bosnian citizen and you are currently a student in a university somewhere in Bosnia and Herzegovina, then you are eligible for the program. The second question about eligibility, unfortunately, global Ugrad eligibility is a little bit specific. So this is asking, if you're studying for a bachelor's degree in a different country, can you apply to global Ugrad in that country that you are studying in? The answer, unfortunately, is no, because you have to be a citizen of the country that you are applying in. So global Ugrad, unfortunately, is a little bit restricted because you have to be a citizen and you have to be studying in your country of citizenship in order to be eligible. But I would definitely recommend reaching out to your Education USA person and seeing if you can talk about some other opportunities that might work, either in the country you're in or even here. Any other questions?
Sorry, I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
For example, I want to know what was my mistake from the last year application, because I applied for the last year upgrade program, but it was unfortunately not accepted.
So I don't know, I mean, specifically, but my suggestion would be to use the key things we've talked about here. It is a competitive program, so we usually only get 3 people to select out of however many apply, anywhere from like 15 to 25, depending on the year. So it is competitive, and keep that in mind. I don't like to say that because I don't want to discourage people. But at the same time, you can have a strong application and not be the best of the applicants. And on that same kind of theme, I think it's worth applying to programs even when they're competitive, because you can learn a lot about how to do these kinds of things from the process. And you might get better if you keep doing different applications for different things and different opportunities. You're going to get better at it. And eventually, I think you'll probably get selected for something. So I don't know specifically, I'm not sure who asked that question, but I'm not super sure specifically what would have happened last year. But maybe review your application from last year, review your essays from last year, and look at them and say, does this reflect the program goals? Did my application show that I am a leader? Did my application show that I help my community? Did it show that I wanted to use what I learned in the United States to come back to Bosnia and make change or make progress in some way? And if the answer is no for any of that, then see how you can put that into your application for this year.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mirza had his hand raised. I don't know,
Okay.
Mirza, if you're still here.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Thank you for noticing, and thank you for picking me. I have a question regarding the letter of recommendation. You said the first letter has to be or should be from a teacher or a professor or an assistant. I
Mhm.
was wondering if maybe it could be from, I don't know how you call it in the US, from the main teacher from my high school. I think it's called a class master. I'm not sure, razrednik, because I think I had the best work experience with her, and I think that she knows me the best out of all of the teachers that I studied with.
So that would not be okay for your academic letter. The academic letter should be somebody who knows you at the university level, because unfortunately, university is very different from high school. So if somebody tells us how great you were academically in high school, it doesn't necessarily tell us that you are doing well in university. That letter could maybe be your personal recommendation. So it's somebody who knows, if somebody still have contact with and somebody who knows you and your activities generally, that could be your personal letter instead of your academic letter.
Okay. Thank you. I will certainly keep that in mind.
Okay, great. And I see a question in the chat. Is it possible to apply during the final year of undergraduate studies? So if you apply right now, you're applying to go in either the fall of next year or the winter, so January of 2023. Depending on which semester you go. So if you go in the fall, you have to still be a student at your home university when you come back for one more semester through 2023. You cannot go for your final semester of undergraduate studies. So it could be your final year and your second to last semester, but it cannot be your final semester and you cannot graduate from the United States. I hope that makes sense.
That's why in our announcement about this webinar, we mentioned that this is for all students except who are currently now in their last year of school, last year of university. So people who are at the moment, as you're speaking now, in your final year of university, you are not eligible because hopefully by the next fall you will already graduate.
Yes, but if that is you, you can apply to Fulbright if you go on to do master's program. So pay attention to our other opportunities instead. Another question about the recommendation letter. I'm not sure I understand this one. The second recommendation letter, should it be relevant? Do you mean current?
Sorry, it was my question, but for example, I'm how to say active in different domains. For example, volunteering in some social health organization, or maybe something in my field of study. For example, which one I will choose for my recommendation letter? Like, for example, I am volunteering in something like which is like in my field of study, mechanical engineering, and at the same time, I am volunteering in a social organization, non-profit organization. Which one I will choose for my letter of recommendation?
It's up to you. I'd say whichever one you think, whoever can write you a better letter. So if your supervisor in one of those speaks English and the other one doesn't, then there you go. That's your answer. Two,
Okay,
which one do you think shows the qualities we're looking for in Global Ugrad more? So the leadership, the commitment to your community, maybe both, and then you just choose whichever one you prefer. But it's hard to answer that for you.
Because the first one is like more like in your field of study. The second one is more social. That's community, like how to say, it's like in community field, like helping other people. So is it the second one better? because it's like helping others.
It's hard to say, but if you think that one shows your commitment to your community better, then I'd say go with that one. Whichever one you think you're making more change or more impact with is probably the better option.
Okay, thank you.
It's very difficult to answer questions like that because not neither Kayla nor me know you personally or those organizations or the relationship that you have with those people who work there. So it's very difficult, but you should kind of this is also one of the, especially when you're applying to, I don't know what about the program, but when you're applying to American universities for your master's or PhD programs, that is one of the way they kind of also I wouldn't say judge, but evaluate you. How do you recognize who would be a good recommender for you? How do you judge personal relationships as well? So it's tricky because we can't know, but Kayla and I, but you should be the one who would sit down and think about what you did in those organizations, what were your achievements, how did you show your leadership skills in both, and that kind of stuff. And then, because if the organization is social and they work with social stuff, you don't have to be working on social stuff in that organization. You could do accounting. So think about what you're doing with them and who would actually be the better recommender for you personally. It's a interpersonal issues, so consider that carefully.
Yes, very good.
Mm,
Some more questions I see.
yes, is it possible to exchange for one semester or all year round?
So this program is one semester. You don't get to choose between a semester or a year. Everybody goes for one semester. If you are selected, we will see your preference between the fall semester or the second winter semester, the spring, winter, spring, I don't know what to call it, but the one that starts in January. We'll see which you prefer. We can't promise which one you would be selected for because it's done in DC. But we'll check your preferences if you are one of our finalist candidates, but it is just one semester, not full year.
And Dean Rakovic, can you apply for this program only once during our university education?
You can go only once, but you can apply multiple times. If you applied last year and didn't get accepted and want to apply again, then please do apply again, as long as you are still eligible. Absolutely.
Yes. Do faculties in Bosnia recognize courses taken in the USA, or it is individual from faculty to faculty?
So Alex, you might have some comments on this too, but it is a little bit more. The general answer is yes, they are recognized, but you'll have to work with your faculty to make sure you're taking the right courses. Like if you're an engineering major and you, I don't know, study civil engineering, but then you go to the US and you study mechanical engineering, that probably won't work. So you have to make sure that you're studying the right stuff
Yes.
for your faculty.
So each faculty, not only every university, but every faculty, meaning like politické nauky, anglický, filozofský, medicina, whatever, they have their own person related to international relations, Office for International Relations. Once you are accepted to the program, I would strongly encourage you to go to your International Student Affairs Office, tell them that you have been accepted, that you're planning to spend one of the semesters next year in the United States, and then ask them to provide you with a list of courses or something that you would need to take in the United States to be recognized once you come back home. So the first step after you are accepted to the program is to actually contact your faculty, not university, your faculty Office of International Affairs. And if you don't know who that is, It's very easy to find it on your faculty website. That's how I find them always. Do I need TOEFL if I already study in English in Bosnia?
Yes. So I mentioned at the beginning, some people may have missed it if they arrived late. TOEFL is not required for the application. So you don't have to have a TOEFL score to apply. If you are selected as a finalist, you have to have a current TOEFL score for the final review steps. TOEFL is only good for 2 years, unfortunately. So if you've taken TOEFL before, but it was more than 2 years ago, doesn't count, you have to do it again. If you study in English, doesn't matter, we have to have the TOEFL score. You don't have to pay to take TOEFL if you are one of our finalists. We will pay for it. We will provide you instructions on how to get it paid for and how to register. Don't do this unless we tell you you are selected after the interviews. I don't want you to go and pay for an expensive test if you don't have to do it. But if you are a finalist, you do have to have a current TOEFL score. That is not necessarily our requirement. This is the requirement of the universities in the United States. They will not admit international students without a TOEFL score. Doesn't matter if you study in English. If your country's language is not English, you have to have a TOEFL score.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And one very simple reason, universities are aware that there are different standards around the world. And, saying somebody has a good English, very different standards. And so it's not if somebody studying in English can mean different things in different countries. And they want to make sure once you're at the universities in the United States, that if you're having issues and problems with some course or with some, something, that it's not because of your lack of knowledge of English, but because that course is, especially difficult for you for other reasons. Sorry, Kayla, I'm just blabbling here.
No, it's good. It's very, and I used to work at a US university, and I would see a lot of international students come who had studied English in their home country, studied in English in their home country, but then arrived in the US at the universities and had a really hard time because it was different, like Alex just said.
Different standards.
Yeah, very different standards. So while if you're writing English in your home country where everybody you're around is using English as their second language, small grammar mistakes and things like that might not matter. But if you go to the United States with native English speakers, those things will stand out more. I'm not saying you have to have perfect English to go on the program. That's not at all true. I trust that if you're listening to this webinar and understanding everything I'm saying, you probably have good enough English to go on the program. But it is an important thing that we just have as like a safety check, kind of, to make sure you are prepared.
Esma, we have a question about the vaccination. Is vaccination a condition to attend the program due to the?
So this is hard to answer. As of today, you have to be vaccinated to go to the United States. This is not a condition of the program. This is a presidential declaration for all travelers to the United States. So that's why it's tough to answer. It's not necessarily a program requirement, but it is a requirement to enter the US.
Even touristically.
Yeah. So you would not, right now, you would not be allowed to enter the United States if you did not have a valid World Health Organization approved vaccination. We're talking about a program in 8 months to a year from now. I don't know what will change between now and then. I'd say your best bet is to get vaccinated if you want to go to the United States, but we will not be asking about this at the time of the program selections. So
yes,
I'll leave it at that.
And Ibrahim, just to mention, he says that he had 2 years ago, he had SAT 950 out of 1600. It doesn't mean anything. 2 years ago was a long time ago. Your English could improve drastically since then, and it could really die down. So that's why TOEFL has 2-year validity date, basically. It's valid for 2 years, and then and I speak this also as a teacher of English. So in 2 years, it can go up and it can like plummet completely.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean anything. Sorry.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the only test accepted right now is TOEFL. You can't do IELTS or something else or SAT. It has to be TOEFL. So, yep.
Since I'm a law student, that I know that in the US, you can study law only if you already have a university degree. So I wonder if that would be a problem for me since we don't have it in Bosnia. So law studies are different. It's at the graduate level in the States. But depending on the courses that you would have next year, there are probably some similar courses that you can find. I mean, not if you're going to study criminal law next year or something very particular to Bosnia, you cannot find that in the United States. Or types of law that are only relevant for this year. But if you have some courses next year or next year, we're talking about next year, that would be more widespread, I think you would be able to find similar courses at the undergraduate level in the States.
Yeah, you're completely correct that law as a degree is only an upper level degree in the US, but there are what we call pre-law programs at the undergraduate level that might have some of the more general things that you need depending on where you are in your degree. So the answer is, I guess, maybe.
Yeah.
We can talk, you can email me if you have, me or Alexandra, if you have.
You all have my email address because you received the invitation, or actually this link for the webinar today from me personally. So you have it.
And I put my email right here. This is our exchange email account, and I always list this one because if I'm out of the office for some reason, other people also check this. So you'll definitely get an answer by emailing this email address. Also, you can go to our website to find the application. If you haven't done so yet, go on our website and the link is there. But you've heard me mention or seen World Learning on my presentation. World Learning is the organization in the United States who manages this program. So on their website, they have, if you just want to learn a little bit more, there's some videos on there from students who went on the program and who are alumni. So if you just want to learn a little bit more about the program, the World Learning website is a great place to go for that. But please do reach out to me directly on email if you have questions any more about the application that we didn't get to talk about today.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Kayla, and thank you everybody for coming. Thank you for the excellent question. I have questions. I really hope that you learned something today and that you feel more encouraged to actually complete this application today.
Yes, I agree. Thank you for hosting for us. And I have seen your names here on the attendance, and I better see an application from all of you when I open the application portal later this week.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.